Hi, I'm Dave Monty. Welcome to my video series, Everything Villages. Lately, there's been a lot of negative videos being posted about the villages, and I am going to address the major concerns that are brought up in these villages in this video, so stay tuned. As always, before we get started, a couple of housekeeping items. If you like this video, please hit like. If you like my channel, please consider subscribing. Both those actions help these videos reach more people, and I greatly appreciate it. Also, if you like a copy of my free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages, you can email me right here at davemontysales@gmail.com. I also have a nifty cost of living calculator / budgeting tool that you can also request right here at davemontysales@gmail.com. So on to the video. Like I stated in the introduction, I am going to do a market update, but it's going to be in a different format than I usually do. The reason I'm doing this is lately there's been a lot of negative videos posted about the villages, and I wanted to address those claims one by one. A lot of those claims are completely false. Some of them are misleading. Some of them have a hint of truth. So I'm going to address those in this video. I also have two other videos where I'm going to talk about some of the challenges that we do face here in the villages in the long run. We're going to talk about the local economy here, which is completely different than any other local economy in the United States. And along with that, we're going to talk about how local economies or local cities actually expand and what happens to the health of the real estate market in these metropolitan areas. Typically, you have something called radial growth, where you're growing out from the center. In the villages, it's a little bit different. We're linear growth. We're growing from the north to the south, so there's really no town center. There have been a lot of negative videos posted on YouTube. All of them have a hidden agenda. The agenda there is to do one of two things: either settle a score with the villages, someone's spending a lot of money and putting some professional videos together, but they have completely misleading comments in these videos. You also have people who might be selling in other retirement communities, like Tammy in Florida, who's out of Sarasota, has a lot of negative things to say about the villages because she wants to attract buyers down to Sarasota. And we do believe that there's a lot of out-of-state realtors who are doing exactly the same thing. They might be supporting Del Webb up in South Carolina as an example. All right. So here are the major themes that you hear in these videos. A huge number of people moving out of the villages, bad health care, taxes increasing, out of control fees. The market is completely dying. Insurance is increasing. The inventory is out of control. Now, things aren't perfect, but it's not gloom and doom. So let's step through each one of these one by one. Okay. Now, the first one, I'm actually going to go in the reverse direction. Meaning this is the claim they make, is that homes are only selling for 96.5% of the asking price, which is true. Okay, but that's fairly standard. It's not like it was during COVID when things were going at about 100%. Okay, but this is a fairly standard asking price to sales price. But that's not actually the number we should be looking at. When you go from an incredibly strong seller's market to above average buyer's market that we're in now, you have a very big change in the real estate market. While things are changing rapidly, people don't keep up with the times. So sellers are still stuck on COVID pricing. So they are talking the real estate agents into listing their homes for more than fair market value in the current. If you've seen any of my videos, you're familiar with this graph. I graph out the price per square foot on average in the villages over time. The actual number is not as important, meaning it's just an average to get a sense of direction that pricing is going through here in the villages. What's interesting here is here's pre-COVID, and you kind of graph the slope of the appreciation of pricing before COVID. And 4 years later, we're about where we would have been if COVID hadn't happened. So What's happened is during COVID, pricing went way up and then it came down and it's been dipping ever since. So in this graph, all I've done is I've shrunk down this axis to accentuate the changes in pricing. And when you do this, it actually looks like it's coming down much faster. But if I take a national graph of average pricing and lay it over the top of this, it looks almost identical. Inventories are exploding, 2,500 plus homes on the market. That's not true. All right. So I know on the MLS, we're probably right at 600. The VLS, there's probably 700 or 800. And then there's always a slew of new homes. So, but I would estimate on the market is about half of that, maybe 1,500, but not 2,500 homes on the market. If you've seen any of my videos, you know this next metric is more important than just the raw number of homes on the market, because you need to take into account how fast homes sell in that market. So currently, and I did this a couple days ago, right now there's about 600, but a few days ago there was 580 homes on the market. On average, we were selling about 135 homes per month, and that puts us at about 4 months of inventory. This seems to be a little bit of a balanced market. I don't think this 6 months is quite right. When you're in the market, I think 4 months is kind of balanced. We're in a slight buyer's market at this time, not a completely lopsided market here in the Villages. But inventories have come up, but let's show you what that inventory is. The demand in the Villages is for newer homes, updated homes. Someone just retires, they want to move down here, they want to be in something fairly new, they want to unpack and play. The market is a big market, meaning that's the demand. The demand for these newer homes is very big. Okay. The problem is in the Villages is probably 90% of resale homes don't show that great. They need some updating. They need to be decorated a little bit better. They need different colors and a very small supply of them. So these homes are actually selling pretty quickly. If your home is updated, if your home is priced fairly, it's selling pretty quickly. If it's out of date, then it's taken much longer, and those are the homes that are staying on the market longer. The opposite is true. The demand for updating a home. So here are a bunch of people who are just retired. They're not going to want to put sweat equity in. Only a small percentage of people like to flip homes, but from a retiree, that percentage goes down even smaller. Okay, and the inventory is that big. So you got a group of buyers who want something fairly new, who are coming into older, outdated homes, and those homes are still sitting on the market. Okay, so that's really what's causing the ballooning, in my opinion, right now. The next claims you see in these videos are out-of-control fees. There's some truth to these, but the claims tend to be very misleading. Okay, number one, HOA fees increase. Number one, the Villages isn't an HOA. It is a community development district. It is different than an HOA. It's a quasi-governmental entity. The amenities fee, which pays for the fun stuff within the Villages, the amenities fee continues to increase annually. But most buyers know that the annual amenities fee, currently at $204 a month, goes up by the cost of living index every year. 6 or 7 years ago, when I first started, it was about $180, and now we're at $204. So it's gone up about $25 over the last 6 or 7 years. You must pay an annual golf fee to pay golf. Villages say the golf is free, but you have to pay all these fees. And let me tell you what the fees are, and I'm ballparking it because I didn't really do the full homework on the golf fees, but I'm going to ballpark these prices for you. You do not need an annual golf pass. The one exists. Okay, so what do you get without the pass? Without the pass, you can golf any of the executive golf courses, which are the par 3/par 4 9-hole courses. You can walk those for free. If you want to use your golf cart, you do have to pay a cart or trail fee, which is $8 Okay, so it's about $8 a round for the 9 holes of golf. If you want to play one of the championship courses, 18 holes, in the winter, that's going to cost you about $75 to $80. I don't have the exact number off the top of my head. And in the summer months, it's about half of that. Okay. What the annual golf pass gets you, okay, it gets you priority tee times. Right now, when you go to sign up for golf in their system, you can only do it a week in advance. When you have the annual golf pass or preferred membership, then you have access 2 weeks in advance. So you get preferred tee times, basically. You also get a big discount on golf. I'm not sure about the trail fees, but I know on championship golf courses, it's probably a 40% discount on that round of golf. When you buy this golf pass, it also gives you access to the country club pools. There's also a separate fee if you only want to belong to those pools. But every single village has its own pool, if not a family pool, as well as a neighborhood pool, or even next to a regional rec center. So you can use 100 and something pools for free here. It's 13 or 14 that are associated with the country club that you do need a pool pass to get into. All right, rising taxes. Okay, a little bit misleading, but not completely false. Okay. The taxes do fluctuate on the tax rate. I know in Sumter County, which is where 90% of the village is, the rate has been really flat over the last 5 years. Marion County and Lake counties, those have gone up and down a little bit. So the taxes aren't necessarily increasing. There are different areas within the villages that have higher tax rates. And I have plenty of videos on that. If you look up any of my cost of living videos, we talk about the relative cost of different areas in the villages. What I think they're talking about when they're saying taxes are increasing is when you buy a house, your house gets reassessed and you will pay higher taxes than the current owner who had their home assessed 20 years ago. Also, where they're currently building, they're building south of the turnpike, that is in Sumter County, but they have an additional Wildwood city tax down there, okay, which can add anywhere between $500 to $1,200 annually in your taxes. If you're north of Highway 44 in Sumter County, you don't have that Wildwood tax. Okay. Bond prices are increasing. Once you have your bond price, that's locked in for the life of the bond, so they don't increase year over year. However, the newer the home, the more expensive the bond is. So bonds way up north when they first started were probably $15,000 to $20,000 for a designer. Let's call it $20,000. Currently, those bonds are between $50,000 to $54,000 in newer homes. So as the villages expands, bond prices are increasing. However, if you're already here, your bond price will never go up. CDD is increasing. The CDD is exactly like the bond, except for it never goes away. You can consider your CDD like a city tax that pays for the roads and the common areas here in the villages. Okay, again, those are fixed. When you buy your house, you know exactly what the CDD is, and that does not increase. So yes, taxes increase, but not anywhere different than anywhere else in Florida or in the country. Okay. Next claim, high foreclosure rates. Okay, the villages is currently at 0.6%. Okay, now, on face value, when I compare that to the national average, it's twice the national average. So that does feel like a big concern. But if I take a look at the average retirement community, we're about half of an average retirement community. Okay? There are more foreclosures as people get older. They either run out of money or they stop making payments. So there's a bunch of reasons why foreclosure rates increase as you get older. Okay, so the villages, while it's much higher than the national average, it's much lower than the average retirement community. Okay, all right. 42% of all villagers who are looking on real estate online are looking to move outside the villages. That's probably true. There's a lot of changes of circumstances, okay? But it's also saying that more than half the people are looking for a home or looking to move within the villages. Why do people move? Okay, it's always change of circumstances, whether it's health care related, moving closer to family, or don't like the villages. So change of circumstance could be something happens financially, something happens to one spouse or the other. Okay? They might downsize within the villages, or they might opt to move closer to home. So I think that 42% is probably no different than any other retirement community, but there is a little bit more truth to this. In the newer sections, people are moving out at a much faster pace than they were in any other location in the villages. I try to make these to the same size scale. I pulled these right off the village's website. If I look north of 44, this is Highway 44, up to 466A, right in here, Brownwood. Okay, these homes are 10 to 12 to 13 years old at this point. You would expect to be more homes for resale here versus where the homes are only a few years old. And you can see the density of the dots is much higher. Why is that the case? A little bit much higher taxes in this little section. Down in here in the newer areas, there's just not much down there. What we hear all the time from people is we're spending all our time in the car because we need to get to a store. We need to go buy milk. We're bored. We want to go shopping. So when all the shopping is way up here where my head is, okay, and way down here is nothing, a lot of people are sort of disillusioned and moving out of the villages. Let's look at the next slide. Okay, so I zoomed in a little bit. These are the same scale. These are the same scale, and what you can see is that this is between Brownwood and 466. Here are the number of homes on the resale market for the villages, and here is in their brand new section down here in, I believe this is Moultrie Creek, if I remember correctly, but this is the one sort of down near Middleton, just near Eastport. And you can see that the percentage of people moving out of the newer section is much higher than they are in other sections in the villages. Next claim, insurance is 2 to 3 times higher than it used to be. False, all right? So insurance in this area is still costing about $100 a month, give or take, depending on the size of your house. It really hasn't gone up here in Central Florida. If you're moving from out of state to Central Florida, one of the things that might surprise you is car insurance is much more expensive in Florida than it is in most other areas. But homeowners insurance is still hovering around $1,100, $1,200 a year for an average size home here in the villages. Where prices are increasing is at the coast. Okay, it's at the coast. Those you're hearing $4,000, $5,000, $6,000 annually there. Okay. Healthcare claims. So sorry, this is a long video, but there were a lot of negative claims out there. Healthcare claims. There's no decent healthcare. You have to go to an hour and a half to get to the cancer center in Tampa. You're an hour away from stroke care, and when you have a stroke, every minute counts. Leesburg Hospital is not too far away, and then regional hospitals. So these claims, when you listen to them, they really harp on how bad the medical is here in the villages. Now, it is a challenge, when you have this many retirees with this many health issues, all moving in, they are having a little bit of challenge keeping up with the growth. But they are touting these online as a negative, right? Not every community has a Moffitt Cancer Center in its community. Okay? This is probably the premier one in Florida. So even if you lived in Orlando, if you want excellent cancer care, you're going to go to Moffitt in Tampa. Okay? So to me, that's a positive, not a negative. They sort of hint that every minute counts when you have a stroke, and the nearest stroke care hospital is over 50 minutes away. Well, that's not where you go for an emergency. Stroke care is a long-range care hospital. You're going to go to your local emergency room. Emergency EMTs and the ambulances have the drugs they need to administer in case you have a stroke. So yes, every minute counts when you have a stroke, okay? But they hint that there's no stroke center right on top of us, okay? Which again is not necessary. Then they say you got to go to other hospitals for care because the villages can't keep up. Well, Leesburg's is about 30 minutes away. They have an excellent cardiac care center there. And then you have pretty large regional hospitals that are not too far. Okay? You got one in Orlando, Tampa, and then the University of Florida up in Gainesville. Okay, so there's plenty of healthcare around. Sometimes, yes, for specialized care, you are going to go out of town. Yes, there is a huge strain on the healthcare system here. When you first get here, I highly recommend one of the very first things you do, maybe even before you get your driver's license, is to get set up with a primary care doctor right away. That will help get you through the system much faster. And the villages understands this is a challenge. You've got ton of retirees moving in at this age where there's more health problems. Okay, so in general, there is a huge demand on the healthcare system, and the villages is aware of this, and they're building as fast as they can, and they're trying to attract as many doctors as they can. Okay, so yes, there's a strain. So when you get here, don't be surprised. Sometimes you have to wait for healthcare. Okay, so is the villages collapsing? Okay, the answer is no. Okay, but it's changing. Okay, it is changing. It is not what it was 5 or 6 years ago, where it felt a little bit more charming. It wasn't as crowded. The roads weren't as congested. The waits at the restaurants weren't quite as long. And so is the village collapsing? No, it's changing. It is getting much busier. And it reminds me of a Yogi Berra quote, which says, "No one goes there anymore because it's too crowded." Okay, so that is kind of what's happening in the villages. People are saying no one wants to be there anymore because it's too crowded. So there are growing pains with the healthcare, with the traffic and such. So just expect that the villages is changing. It used to be just the villages in the area, and the entire area is growing. And we're going to have videos. And we're going to talk about how that works. Okay, and there are some risks, and we're going to address some of those risks in those other videos. Okay? So it's not perfect, but it's not broken. In the next video, we're going to talk about the local economy versus a normal economy, linear growth versus radial growth. Okay? And then the follow-on video after that is the demand side of things with the next generation on deck, which is my generation, Gen X. Okay? As always, if you like this video, please hit like. If you like my channel, please subscribe to it. Also, if you'd like a copy of my free 42-page guide, Buying and Selling a Home in the Villages, you can email me right here at davemontesales@gmail.com. And I also have a nifty cost of living calculator / budgeting tool that you can request there as well. Well, I hope you found the video informative. I hope to see you around the villages. Take care.